Okay, welcome to lesson 1 of chapter 3, where we talk about campaign assets. And in particular, in this lesson, we'll be talking about budget. So one quick call out here is that budget and fundraising are different things. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about fundraising. We'll spend quite a bit of time on that in a future chapter. The budget is where you figure out how to spend the money that you're hopefully going to be fundraising. I wish you great luck in fundraising and hope that you spend or that you raise tons and tons and tons of money. The budget is where we try and project out how much money we'll need and how we're going to be spending that. So it's a plan for our money intake and outtake. So with that said, let's talk about what we're going to cover in this lesson. So be two big sections. The first, we'll take a look at this budgeting tool that I built in Excel for you guys. I put it together specifically for this course to help you be able to budget out the things that will likely come up on your campaign. So we'll take a deep dive into that tool. And then the second part of the course, we'll talk about tips for budgeting for your campaign. 3 main tips. We'll talk about asking other campaigns about budgeting. 2, how to modernize your budget. And 3, using interns and outsourcing to be able to save some on your budget as well. So let's take a look at this. Let's get started with the Excel budgeting tool I've built for you. Okay, so this is a basic budget. Feel free to add anything that you need to this. You can see here that I have these main categories: salaries, tech, voter contact, office, and travel. So what we do is we have it broken out into 12 months. I know that your campaign probably won't be going from January to December, so you feel free to edit this, edit these time periods however fits best for you. So what you do is you only edit the cells here that are written in blue text. Everything else is a formula that automatically updates and fills. So let's look here at salaries. So what I've done is I've scheduled $10 per month for the campaign manager. So you can think about this in, let's say that it's thousands of dollars. So we have here $10,000 a month for a campaign manager. I know that's a lot, but this is just dummy numbers to walk through the spreadsheet here. And then we have $5,000 a month for a scheduler. And then on the tech side, we have $10,000 a month for database services, $5,000 a month for website, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, these are dumb numbers. So the way that this works is if we say, okay, I'm not going to be able to pay $10,000 a month for a campaign manager, but maybe $2,000 a month. So we change this to 2 each month. And let's say scheduler, you can afford $1,000 a month. So we'll bring it out here. And then we have $1,000 a month for a scheduler, $2,000 a month for a campaign manager. And you can tell that this row here for salaries automatically updated to $3,000 a month. Also at the end in the annual budget column, you'll see that it takes a sum of every single period up through there. So that's the idea here, guys. It's straightforward. Then at the bottom, we have the total budget for the entire year for every line item at $1,621. Or actually that would be, what did we say? That's thousands of dollars. So that'd be $1.6 million. You're running a big campaign here, guys. Quick pause for a sentimental note. I got this mug. You can see here. It says, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." I love this mug. My dear Grandma Sue, she died earlier this year after a painful battle with Alzheimer's disease, and then ultimately it was cancer that she got that took her. And so she died back in April. I'm recording or actually very end of March, on her birthday, her 78th birthday. So I'm recording this in November right now. So it's about 6-7 months ago. It was a tough one. My brother and sister and I were very tight with our Grandma Sue. We spent tons of time with her as a kid, and she was the sweetest, best grandma you could ever imagine. So how about we dedicate this lesson to my Grandma Sue? She used to always, the coffee cup, I guess I should get to the point here. She used to sing that to my brother and sister and I when we were little all the time. You are my sunshine, my own. So it's very, very sweet. So I got this mug because it makes me think of her. So anyway, here's to Grandma Sue. So let's take a look at this Track to Budget tab. So the way this works is the same as before. You only edit the cells that have blue text in them. So let's take a look at the Campaign Manager tab. So this cell is in black. Campaign Manager, $24,000 for the year is what we have budgeted, and that feeds in from the other tab. So you don't need to make any changes to this. Black text, no need to change. Only change the ones in blue. So in January, let's say we spent our $2,000. And then on our scheduler, we had $1,000 a month budgeted here. We can see that we have the $12,000 annual budget that feeds through. And let's say we spent what we planned, $1,000 in January for our scheduler. And then look at up here, the salaries, $3,000 is what we had budgeted for the month of January. And that's where we're at, $3,000. And if you look over here, in the right-hand columns, you can see year-to-date spend is $3,000 for salaries, $2,000 for campaign manager, $1,000 for scheduler. So hey, how about that? Pretty cool. And then you can see remaining budget. We have $33,000 left remaining in our budget. Over budget, we haven't gone over budget, so these remain blank. So let's just play out a scenario here with, let's say that everything goes fine with the campaign manager. I mean, with the scheduler. So all year long, we spend the $1,000. Or let's say we're sitting in September. Sorry. So let's say we're in September and we've been spending $1,000 a month on our scheduler. Campaign manager, we're spending the $2,000 a month like we thought up until April when, oh darn it, the campaign manager we had suddenly quit. So they're gone, and then in April, we don't have a campaign manager. So we spend $0 in April. Then let's say we're struggling, trying to find a new campaign manager, and then we finally find one. But the campaign manager that we find is a lot more expensive. So let's say that they are $4,000 a month. So, it's really the only choice that we have. We've looked at all sorts of different possibilities. It's the only thing that we can do. So we have $4,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $4,000 a month, and then here we are in September, spent $4,000 a month, and you can see at that point, our year-to-date spend on campaign manager is $26,000. We only had $24,000 budgeted. So now you can see over here in this column, that moves up over budget of $2,000. All right, so that's pretty much in a nutshell how this thing works. So you can see, you can go through here and fill out your expenses as they come in month by month, and then your annual budget will update there at the end, and you can just keep an eye on the remaining budget that you have. But this brings up an important question. Where is all this money coming from? And two, how do I know how much stuff this costs? Like digital ads. Let's go back to our budget plan. So digital ads. How do I know that in April I should spend $10,000 on digital ads and then $20,000 in May, $40,000 in June? Where did that come from? So we're going to get into that in the next little section right here. So this is the budget tool. Play around with it. Feel free to add in anything that you think you're going to need. If you're having problems with the getting the Excel formulated the right way because you don't have basic Excel skills, that's one of those things you can ask. If you know anybody that does any kind of accounting or finance work, even basic accounting and finance work, you can ask them to just help you. It'll literally take 2 seconds. Well, not 2 seconds, 5 minutes tops for them to help you add in some lines and make it all work the way that you need. But this format should be pretty good for you. Okay, so let's go back to our slides here and take a look at the rest of this information in Chapter 3, Lesson 1. So now we'll get on to the second part, 3 tips for budgeting. So budget tip number 1, ask other campaigns. If you're friends with Elizabeth Warren, you can ask her what she did on her campaign. Maybe she'll be able to help you out. If not, you're going to have to talk to some other folks. So maybe former candidates in your area that have run for your seat or a similar seat, or perhaps they're like sitting officials right now who are also former candidates, kind of one and the same there. You can ask them about how much money it took for them to run their campaign and see if they'll share. They might even have some old budgets for you or some old information that you can use. It's likely someone that's already endorsed you will help share this information, or someone that's at least the same party as you and aligned similarly to you. So those are the types of folks that you'll want to reach out to and ask about this. You can also ask campaign consultants about it. I don't know, it varies from area to area. In Sacramento, where I lived, there were a handful of campaign consultancies that focused on local races in the Sacramento area. There were tons of campaign consultants that focused on statewide issues or statewide races for state senate and assembly and governor and big giant races like that. But there were even some that focused at the local level. And I know here in New York City, there's some firms that focus on local races. So hopefully there's some in your area that you can reach out to and see if they can share some information. You can do it casually, just set up a coffee or say, hey, I really want to talk to you about running for office. Like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to be running for office, and I was hoping that I could pick your brain about a couple of things. They're probably not, full disclosure, they're probably not going to want to share a whole lot of information with you because they get paid to provide that information. So something else I wanted to mention here is that if you hire a campaign consultant to be your campaign manager, hopefully this is an area of expertise that they already have. I can't tell you from where I'm sitting about how much your campaign is going to cost because it's drastically different for the size of the race and the location in which you're running. Just very, very, very different. So you'll need to get some of that grassroots information in your own local area. So that does it for budget tip number 1. And that's how to fill out how to plan for the budget. Figure out how much money you're going to need to spend. So budget tip number 2 is modernize it. So what I'm going after here is that there's a way the campaigns have been run for a while, and we're looking to change it. The world has changed a lot recently, and the ways in which we're connected now, and with technology driving so many cool new tools about people connecting and spreading messages, that campaigns need to evolve a lot. So in that evolution, there is opportunity to save money on your budget. So here's some tips on how to do it. Don't run TV ads. You're probably not going to be running TV ads anyway if you're running in for a school board or something below. Maybe for city council you are, but in general, guys, don't run TV ads. They're still pretty expensive, and they don't reach anybody anymore. No radio ads. I don't think radio ads are bad, and I don't think TV ads are bad. But you have to think like an economist with these sort of things and think about trade-offs. So for every $5 that you spend on radio ads, that's $5 that you could have spent on other ads. And quite simply, there are other ads that are a lot more effective, like way, way, way more effective. And you can carve them out exactly the way that you need to run them. Don't put up yard signs. I know that no candidate likes to hear this, but they're big, they're expensive. Let's say that you got yard signs for $2.50 a yard sign. So you had 10 yard signs. How much difference do you think 10 yard signs is going to make? Let's say 100. Let's say 100 yard signs. $2.50. So that comes out to $250. If you got 100 yard signs and put them up around your town, how big of a difference do you think that's going to make? Really think about it for a second. Do you think that's going to persuade voters to vote for you or to remember to vote for you or something like that. Because if you take $250 and spend it on digital advertisements on Facebook in your area, you can target exact voters that you want to reach. Okay, not the people, but like the age range, what zip code they live in, man versus woman, people that are interested in like only liberal politics, people that are only interested in basketball, people that only went to this school or that school. You can narrow this down so much, and for $250, you can target those people and run ads that they will see tons of times, tons and tons and tons of times. And that ad will be right here in their face when they have their freaking phone shoved in their face 24/7 like everybody does today. That, or you can have 100-yard signs spread out that some people might glance at when they're driving down the road, clustered in with a bunch of other yard signs that nobody else cares about. So it's up to you. And the digital ads give them the opportunity to click and learn more and connect with you and become a more like evangelist supporter of you. Anyway, that's my speech on yard signs. So like I was saying, digital. This is the way to go to save money and have an effective budget here. Because I guess you should have said this a minute ago, but a lot of your budget is going to go to advertising, to getting the word out there about your campaign, as it should. It makes sense. You need to be educating voters about your platform, who you are, when to vote, how to vote, why to vote, all of that. And that costs a lot of money. So digital, it's low cost per unit. There's zero entry cost. You don't have to be working with a printer that sets up some big form for you that stamps out yard signs, and so you have to give them $1,500 up front or something. There's nothing like that at all. And it's highly targetable. Like I was saying, you can target exact people in exact areas with exact demographics and interests. And yeah, so digital. We'll talk a lot about this. We're going to talk a lot about how to get free digital advertising, light your social media following on fire using the best practices done by today's social media entrepreneurs. I'm obsessed with this stuff. I've learned it like crazy just in my own entrepreneurial efforts, and we're going to apply it to campaigns, something that's going to give you a very, very distinct edge here. So budget tip number 3, volunteers and outsourcing. So this is the golden question in a campaign. Can a volunteer do that? Can a volunteer do that? If any of you have ever worked on a campaign, I bet a lot of you have, you'll realize that the whole operation totally runs on volunteers. And the idea is that it's free work, and it's people that are typically motivated to do that work because they believe in your cause or they need the experience for education. There's a million different reasons. But the golden question is, can a volunteer do that? And we'll talk more later on in chapter 3 about people power and volunteers and how to recruit them, retain them, get the best use out of them. We'll talk about that more in just a little bit, actually. So the other point to cover here is outsourcing. And the idea here, guys, is that this is another one of those things that online entrepreneurs use a ton, and it doesn't get talked about a whole lot. But there's websites. The big one is Upwork, where you can hire people to be they call it like a VBA, like virtual business assistant, or VPA, virtual personal assistant. But basically, you can hire people online all over the world that can do office type work for you. And with tools like Google Voice and Google Docs, these are free tools that allow you to have phone numbers that those people can be reached at that are local phone numbers to instantly collaborate on documents. With FaceTime and Skype, you can communicate one-on-one with those people face-to-face. And in websites like Upwork, when you hire people, they also have tools built in that track what these people are doing. So essentially it takes a screenshot of their screen every 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, or every minute, something like that. So you can basically see, like, if that person is on the clock for you and you're paying them for that hour, that they're doing the work that they said that they're going to be doing for you. So what you can do is you can hire someone in, like, the Philippines is really popular. India is very popular. You can hire people to do office type work for you, assistant type work for you. So scheduling, personal assistant type stuff is very popular. Also, like, social media marketing is very popular as well. And you could hire someone in the Philippines that say in your area you were hiring a personal assistant, and you would typically pay them like $16 an hour. You can hire that same person in the Philippines for maybe like $6 an hour. I'm kind of making that up, but I think last time I looked into it, that was around the going rate, maybe like $6 to $8 an hour. And I know for some people that this is like fairly uncomfortable, and you need to do what is right for your campaign. So that's why I have this call out here, like, does this fit your campaign message? So look, guys, if you're running to represent your town, and you're talking about bringing jobs back to your town, and you hire two people on your campaign, one's a campaign manager, they're by your side all the time, the other one is a scheduler, and you put that job in the Philippines, how's that going to look with your campaign message? That's something for you to decide, something for you to think through. I'm like personally very much like a free market guy, and like globalized economics and globalized free trade is something that I really believe in. So for me, I'm like, hey, this is great. And just to go further down that line of reasoning, at surface level, it's like, you didn't hire someone locally to do that? Yeah, well, what about the candidate that buys 1,000 yard signs and has them plastered all over town, and they bought them online for like cheapsignage.net? And you know where those yard signs are like printed? Probably in the middle of nowhere in China. And at the very least, they're probably printed outside of your district if they are printed inside the United States. So, like, let's everyone get down off their high horse here. Look, I'm getting a little fired up about it. But you get the idea. There's two sides to every argument here. So you need to do what's best for your campaign. If you want more information about hiring folks overseas to do assistant type work or social media marketing type work, you can check out the website Upwork, which is the platform where a lot of this happens. But also, there's a million different YouTube videos of social media and online entrepreneurs talking about best practices for how to hire people overseas, and the best practices around that, so that you don't get screwed over, so that the other person is happy and enjoys doing this job for you. And yeah, so I'll put some links to videos, and I think there might be a podcast also that I'll want to include in there. So I'll put it in the class notes, and you can feel free to check that out. One last note on outsourcing jobs for much cheaper overseas. I know it probably sounds like very low amount of money, like if you're hiring someone for $6 or $7 or $8 an hour overseas to be working for you, but $6 an hour in the United States is extremely different than $6 an hour in New York City. So just remember, like, $6 an hour could be providing a great livelihood for someone and their spouse and their kids in a developing country, and that person landing that job with you, that could mean the difference between them having like a pretty hearty meal for 6 to 12 months versus not really having much at all. So I'm not encouraging you to do one way or the other, but this idea of paying lower wages overseas gets a lot of people, kind of like worked up, and they don't quite know how to process it. So there's some thoughts on it from me. And if it was me personally, I'm not sure if I would hire a scheduler locally or if I would outsource it out. That's just a personal choice that everybody has to make. So I'm not sure exactly what I would do. But there's some stuff for you to think through. And so that does it for the first lesson here, budget and funds, in chapter 3 on campaign assets. So we'll be right back in lesson 2. So I'll see you in a moment. Thanks.